Welcome to the Kennedy Report, ladies and gentlemen. I promise I got my technological issues sorted out here. Big news out of the Vatican. Pope Francis has responded to the news about Roe versus Wade, and he did it in very Francis fashion. His actions speak even louder than his words, as troubling as the words are sometimes. And he gave Holy Communion, or at a Mass he presided over. I don't know if he officially handed Nancy Pelosi the Holy Eucharist. I would imagine it's in the hand, so I'm saying handed. I don't know if he distributed it to her. However, he gave it. He presided over the Mass. And we're going to talk about that in just a second here. First, we've got to say thank you to our sponsor over at Noble Gold. Now is the time to start setting goals for the next cycle of inflation, because goodness gracious, it seems like it's never ending. This way, you're always moving forward, growing. You're making money. You're not losing it. Imagine if you do this, you have more financial freedom, which allows you a little bit more time to have a little bit more fun. Start a gold IRA with Noble Gold now and fight inflation. And this month, for every IRA above $20K, you get an incredible 3-ounce silver American Virtue coin that looks just like this one. This is completely free as a thank you. It has a cash value to it. You cannot go wrong with Noble Gold. Call 1-877-646-5347 now to find out more. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com. The information you need will be in the links in the description very shortly. Okay. Now, one thing, people ask me why I do this gold advertisement. For one, there's no such thing as a free lunch. To buy the equipment and keep the lights on, we've got to have funds for it. But secondly, I'm extremely happy working with this company because gold is a very Catholic-friendly product. We can invest in it. We can use it without getting caught up in all the evils of usury. I think it's good. And it's also just effective. So what happened with Nancy Pelosi? Well, we're going to just go over this quick here. Article over at LifeSite News. And just going to bring up the chat here. I want to make sure I can see it. In any case, article over at LifeSite News. Nancy Pelosi receives Holy Communion at Mass presided over by Pope Francis. This is real. So we were waiting for Pope Francis to say something about Roe versus Wade. I mean, goodness gracious, it's the biggest news for traditional, it's the biggest news for anyone who believes in the sanctity of life, which should include the Pope. And he said nothing. I mean, he'll say something about whatever nonsense Greta Thunberg is peddling about, I don't know, something to do with plastic straws or something. By the way, pro tip, my wife recently bought a 200 pack of plastic straws. So whenever we go to a drive-through to grab a drink or something, they ask if you want a straw. You say, I've got my plastic straw. A little tiny way of sticking it to the man, if they say. So, the Pope will jump on any environmentalist cause or something. But when it comes to the greatest news that we've had in a long time, hundreds of thousands of babies are now set to be saved from abortion. Many states now, I think it's 12 and growing, have completely banned it. That's just going to grow. This is a wonderful thing. Faithful Catholics on the court. I think Clarence Thomas is even a traditional Catholic. I think he attends traditional Latin Mass, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't matter. Faithful Catholics on the court. By the way, when ACB, Comey Barrett, when she was elected to the Supreme Court, a lot of naysayers were saying she was going to fold under pressure and she was just a liberal in disguise and she's not really a traditionalist and all that sort of stuff. Well, she did her job and she voted the right way. So I'm waiting for those commentators to come out and say they made a mistake there with a doomsday prediction. But in any case, Pope Francis has not replied with words. So he's replied with actions. We're going to read this here. And Speaker of the House, Representative Nancy Pelosi, has reportedly received Holy Communion at a Mass presided over by Pope Francis this morning. This was this morning their time, so middle of the night for us, if you're in the North America, despite being banned from receiving communion by our local ordinary. So Nancy Pelosi, in a sense, is, I don't know if you say she's excommunicated, but she's sort of excommunicated from her diocese. Instead, she goes to Rome to have a special meeting with Pope Francis, at which she received a blessing from the Pope before attending Mass in St. Peter's Basilica. So she received a blessing from the Pope, and then she went to Mass that the Pope was presiding over. So we can't even say, get it, Pope Francis is the Pope. He's an older man. There's hundreds of people, maybe 1,000 or so at this mass. I have no idea. Who's to say who's there? There's probably other priests or deacons or Eucharistic ministers or something handing out Holy Communion. So I'm sure, yeah, you could say maybe it gets lost in the shuffle, but this was not just some sort of random thing. This was something where it was known. I mean, for goodness sake, as it says in the article, Nancy Pelosi was at the mass. And you can even see the mass online. You know, it's all here for you, so you can check out if you want. There he is, Pope Francis. We can fast forward on look at that, some cantor or something like that with Ukrainian colors on. That's fun. We can fast forward to the concelebrated. Goodness gracious, I don't go to the Novus Ordo anymore, and it's so cringe. But then I imagine we have a point where we can see Holy Communion. Anyway, somewhere in there. But Pope Francis there, he's obviously knows what's going on. According to the teaching of the Church, Pelosi's vocal and persistent support for the killing of unborn children precludes the high-profile politician from receiving Holy Communion. This is basic. You know this from your St. Joseph's Catechism, which you can get for like 50 cents at a thrift store. And this is common, though, with what Pope Francis has done, sadly. He's supported pro-abortion politicians like Joe Biden. So Nancy Pelosi just condemned the overturning of Roe versus Wade and is asking for abortion on demand all the time in America, flies to Rome, receives a blessing from the Pope in a private audience. By the way, Cardinal Zen can't get his private audience, and he's rotting away in communist China. Nancy Pelosi gets a private audience, then goes to Mass on an extremely important feast day, and the rest is history. She even told Roman diplomats in Rome, the faith is an important gift. Not everyone has it, but it is the path to so many other things. So apparently Nancy Pelosi believes that she has the faith. You know what's crazy about this? Even the secular media knew this was a big deal. This also comes out on the heels of Pope Francis's most recent letter. I'll just bring that over here quick. Desiderio desideravi. It's pretty good pronunciation, eh? And it's going over the Latin Mass and why it basically has to be abolished and so many and whatever. And so this is a pretty big day. Pope Francis comes out. You can, I'm not going to read through this too much here, but there are a couple paragraphs that I think are most important. And they're just right here. He says, if the liturgy is the priesthood of Christ. Oh, sorry, one right here. The continual rediscovery of the beauty of the liturgy is not the search for a ritual aesthetic, which is content by only a careful exterior observance of a rite, or is satisfied by a scrupulous observance of the rubrics. So this is him saying, on the one hand, Mass is not just about following the rules, guys. It's not just about following the rubrics, which actually very much is about following the rubrics. He says we got to do more than that. But then he continues in the next line and he says, let us be clear. Every aspect of the celebration must be carefully tended to, and this includes rubrics. Every rubric must be observed. He goes on in the document, and he eventually basically says that the Roman Rite must be abolished. I think this is in paragraph 61, if I'm not mistaken. If I just scroll down here quickly. 61. Yes, in this letter, it's right here in paragraph 61. He says, in this letter, I'll make this bigger for you, actually. That's better. Perfect. There you go. In this letter, I have wanted simply to share some reflections which most certainly do not exhaust the immense treasure of the celebration of the Holy Mysteries. I ask all the bishops, priests, and deacons, the formators and seminaries, the instructors and theological faculties and schools of theology, and all catechists to help the holy people of God. The people of God, that term is so cringe at this point. To draw from what is the first wellspring of Christian spirituality, we are called continually to rediscover the richest of the general principles exposed in the first numbers of Sacrosanctum Concilium, grasping the intimate bond between the first of the Council's constitutions and all the others, etc., etc., etc. And he goes on to say, the Holy Pontiffs, Paul VI, John Paul II, approving the reformed liturgical books Ex Decreto Sacrosancti Ecumenici Concili Vatican, saying fancy Latin word for Vatican II, have guaranteed the fidelity of the reform of the Council. For this reason, I wrote Traditionis Custodes, which tries to take a hammer to the traditional Latin Mass, so that the Church may lift up in the variety of so many languages one and the same prayer capable of expressing her unity. So basically, he's saying, I intend this unity to be reestablished in the whole Church of the Roman Rite. So what he means is that he wants, what he's saying is he wants the spirit of the Second Vatican Council personified in the liturgy of Paul VI to be reestablished in the whole Church, so that there is unity in the Roman Rite, which basically means he wants to suppress the traditional Latin Mass, which we knew already. But it is just amazing how on the same day he comes out with a blessing and a presiding over a mass for pro-abort Nancy Pelosi after the overturning of Roe versus Wade, of which he was silent on. And then he comes out with a document that I just read a selection of it there. You should read the whole thing for yourself if you need a reason to be annoyed. Talking about the mass in very strange ways, very modernist document, doublespeak, and basically makes it clear that his intention is still to make the multiple languages of the new mass the norm for the Church. If we look to Scripture, having people be bifurcated into multiple different languages is actually a punishment. That's what happened at the Tower of Babel. When we try to establish the kingdom of earth, the kingdom of heaven on earth, and reach our way to it by worldly things, God actually punishes us and then separates us throughout the world, and we can't understand each other. There's no reason why we would have a liturgy that is in multiple different languages, beyond the prudential reasons of having different apostolic rites, sure. But even those are very universal, because the point is if you're in the Eastern Rite of the Church and you're from Byzantium, so-called, and you go somewhere else, you can still understand the liturgy the way you were taught it and the way you always attended it, because there's a language that's at least universal to that rite. Within the Novus Ordo, there's no such thing as a universal language. There's just many different languages, which is actually more confusing and creates more work and creates more division, because you have your French-speaking mass and your Latino mass, or is it Latinx nowadays? You have your, English one. If you look at these major cathedrals in big cities, there's like 7 masses every Sunday because they have to have the different languages represented. Where, what's the most unifying thing possible when you have one language and then people have their missals? I mean, I'm going to be honest. I speak 4 languages. I understand Latin really well. I can read it really well because it's very much like Italian, Spanish, and French, which I speak fluently, fine. But even if you don't, you just go to mass for a few months and you have your missal and you just learn to understand what things mean. It's pretty simple. Ugh, these silly people in the chat. Sorry about that. In any case, that's enough for now. So pray for Pope Francis, pray for Nancy Pelosi, because, to be honest, they're just basically endangering their souls. How can you access this document? Well, it's at the Vatican website. So you know what I'll do? I'm going to just sign off here in just a second. I will put the links to this in the chat. So if you just look in the actual in the description, look at the actual description of the video, and I will make sure that I have the link in there. In any case, interesting news. The summer of love is a summer of rage is approaching as the Roe versus Wade has been overturned, and Pope Francis responds with his intention to suppress the Latin Mass even further and to make sure that notorious, massively evil pro-abortion politicians receive blessings from the Pope and then receive Eucharist at the Mass he presides over. So, in any case, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a special quick broadcast here, breaking news. This has been Like the video, subscribe to the channel, look in the links to the video, see how you can support us. Thank you to everybody who has. I got to say that I always forget. And check out my sponsor, Noble Gold. This has been the Kennedy Report. Until next time, God bless.